This is Bryan with Salesforce Sessions. We've got a great show for you today. Julie Marques is going to be joining us. Julie is the Director of Strategic Consulting at ListEngage. We're going to talk about something kind of near and dear to my heart, which is when you've decided to go down this path and start your journey on creating connected customer experiences. How do you start? What do you do first? How do you frame the problem? We've got a great show for you today. Thanks for being with us. Hi, my name is Bryan, and this is Salesforce Sessions, where we talk about everything Salesforce. So today we've got Julie Marques, one of my favorite people. She's the Director of Strategic Consulting at ListEngage. Welcome to the show, Julie.
Thanks, Bryan. Glad to be here.
So Julie, we've had the pleasure of working together to tell the audience a little bit about, hey, how did you even get here? How did you get into the whole ecosystem?
Yeah, happy to tell that story. I think it's an interesting one. So, when I was in college, I thought I was going to be a lawyer. My dad was a judge, and I took on a double major in English and psychology, and really didn't know what I wanted to do, and thought maybe law school. And when I graduated, I wasn't really quite ready to commit to law school. So I thought that I would try out some communications based on that English degree. And so I started doing journalism, writing, communications. That led to corporate communications. Corporate communications led to marketing communications. Marketing communications led to digital marketing. And then that ended up leading to Salesforce. So, and somewhere along the way, law school got forgotten because things were going well. So, in the course of being a digital marketer, I wore a lot of different hats. And one of the things that I did was email marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And my company at that time decided to make the investment in an email tool called ExactTarget. And I became kind of the point person on ExactTarget. I was using the tool, I was sending out my campaigns, and I had worked with a services partner to purchase ExactTarget, to get it stood up, to help me load my data, et cetera. A couple years after I had worked with that agency, they came back and they said, we remember you, Julie. You seem to really get this tool, and wanted to know if you wanted to come work for us and be an ExactTarget consultant. And it was a tough decision because at that time I thought, well, I really like doing a lot of different things as a marketer. I don't know that I want to get pigeonholed and just be an email person. But I went ahead and made the move, and it was the best move ever because it didn't pigeonhole me. It actually opened up a tremendous amount of doors, because what happened was this little email company called ExactTarget got acquired by Salesforce, and ExactTarget became Salesforce Marketing Cloud. And Salesforce Marketing Cloud is so much more than email. It's all things digital marketing. And then, Salesforce Marketing Cloud, through the innovations of Salesforce, has gotten so much more connected into Service Cloud, Commerce Cloud, Sales Cloud. And, I am anything but just an email consultant now. It's like, I started there, but now I'm really working with companies to help with their digital transformation. And there's a piece of that that's marketing, but there's a piece of that that's just operational and growing ROI and having a better sales teams and better service teams and having all of those things connected. So it's really been the best move to go forward and partner with Salesforce.
So, what's interesting about that journey that you were on, I kind of think that journey isn't that dissimilar to the journey that a current marketer kind of goes on when they're trying to figure out even how they do digital transformation or get involved in email or CRM. Because, when you think about it, most marketers don't see themselves as digital marketers. They see themselves as marketers. And so they're all having to kind of take those mental leaps and steps, don't you think?
I agree. Yeah, it's absolutely, it's a personal evolution. It's an evolution for the business. It's an evolution for how you talk to your customers and at what level. And
Wh-
I always bring that to the conversation with my clients is I've been where you are, and I look at things from your lens. And so I want to understand where you are and help you from that perspective.
So, what do you think though is the biggest like challenge in um, a marketer like going into digital marketing? And I don't mean like the technical challenge. I mean in their headspace. What's
Hmm.
the biggest difficulty in making crossing that chasm?
I think the biggest difficulty is that the space is changing so quickly.
Oh, it
And
is.
what we think about today as best practices and how to have a good marketing program is different than it was even a year ago. And
Hmm.
a year from now, it's going to be totally different again. So there might be concern or hesitancy from a standpoint of, well, I don't know everything. But the answer is you're never going to know everything. And we're all kind of doing the best that we can. And it's an awesome place to be because you can help write that story, as a marketer who embraces digital and embraces the art of the possible. um, you can be part of the solution, because we're all kind of figuring it out together.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and before we go into the market and the industry and what's happening there, um, what do you like the most about it?
Well, as we talked about, it's changing so quickly, and that's something that both keeps me up at night, but also that I love so much about it. I love the constant challenge of it. I love being a partner to Salesforce and being exposed to their vision and their cutting edge technology. Um, I love how how the technology is evolving to where we're able to market in such a different, smarter, more personalized, more real-time way. And for me personally, in the day to day, I love having the opportunity to talk to really smart marketers all day, every day, from our clients in different industry verticals with different challenges and different goals to our own team of super smart technical marketers that I can collaborate with and brainstorm. I love the people aspect.
Hmm. Yeah, the people aspect is always interesting because so many people came here without thinking that they were going to be digital marketers. Yeah, and most of the people that have been here a long, long time, none of them started as digital marketers. So I think everyone kind of brings kind of an interesting perspective, and depending on where they come from, they kind of bring something different to it. But this kind of reminds me back to people. Um, does your father understand what you do?
Oh no, my mother still says I'm a writer, for example. No, I like to make the joke that my elevator pitch for what I do is like 50 floors high. Um, it's going to take a while to explain. But yeah, when I'm at a family reunion and I'm trying to synthesize it, I say, there's a software called Salesforce. Salesforce does these great things, but people who make the investment don't always know what to do with it. And I wear a lot of different hats, but at the end of the day, that's what I do. I help them make the most of that investment.
I know. I find that every time I try to explain what we do, it's almost dead on arrival. It's too hard because I can either say digital transformation or I can say, which makes people kind of get glossy eyed and not really understand it as they shouldn't, because who knows what that actually means. To I can get into details about how we help implement and optimize Salesforce software, which has the exact same effect as just saying digital transformation. So I've almost given up.
Just tell people you're a writer. It's easier.
So do you ever wonder what life would have been like had you gone to law school?
I do. Yeah. I think that I would have loved law school because I'm a book nerd. I think policy is very interesting, but I think the actual practice of being a lawyer day in, day out, I would not have enjoyed that anywhere near as much as what I do today.
Nice. Okay, so let's pause for one moment, and we're going to come back and get into the industry and what we think's going on.
Salesforce Sessions is brought to you by ListEngage. ListEngage is your award-winning Salesforce partner. With ListEngage, you get a team of experts to assist you as you navigate your digital journey. Whether you specialize in finance, healthcare, education, or retail, ListEngage has a solution for you. Visit us online at listengage.com.
Welcome back to Salesforce Sessions. Your host, Bryan here with Julie Marques, Director of Strategic Consulting at ListEngage. So as we come back, Julie, one of the things that's so interesting about the space that we're in is its complexity. It's beautiful, it's complicated, it's maddening. You have this chart that I must ask you about like once a month or so with like the whole MarTech stack. And I find it mind-boggling. And as a business leader, the framework for making a decision on how to do anything in digital marketing is just, it's mind-blowing because there's so many things to choose from, so many options. And even when you've decided on the Salesforce ecosystem, there's still 100,000 decisions.
Right.
How do you navigate
Mhm.
it all?
Yeah, it's not easy. Our team at ListEngage is great at helping our clients to navigate options for the MarTech stack. There are more options than there ever have been. I mean, the options and the possibilities for a MarTech stack only a few years ago were, relatively, much simpler. Today, there are hundreds, literally hundreds of more options for what it could look like. So, how do we do it? One of our core beliefs is to build and make decisions based on use cases. So rather than looking at it like, well, I've got all these data sources and I want to do everything and let's just try to build for any possibility. It's like, well, no, what are the most important use cases? What are the most important pieces of data? Let's look at those first and build towards something that you'll actually use. That is the first way to look at it. Then we also want to look at what's coming up on the roadmap in the near term. One thing I've always said about ExactTarget and now Salesforce Marketing Cloud, but even back in the ExactTarget days was there is more than one way to do something, whatever the thing is you want to do. I can't get on the call with you and just say, this is how you do it. I can do that, but that would be a little bit of a disservice because whatever I say is not going to be the only way. So now more than ever, as Salesforce innovates and acquires companies and adds to the capabilities of what the core functionality is, there's infinite ways to do any one thing. And so that's where, we as consultants can come, ask the right questions, help you prioritize your needs, and give you options. So one option might be the fastest way to do something, the cheapest way to do something. Another option might be well, this will take a little bit more time, but it'll give you XYZ more capabilities. Another way might be well, this is the absolute best way to do things based on not just this thing you want to do, but the 5 things you want to do next year.
Well,
And
hold on.
it's
Let me dig
important.
into that.
Sure.
Let me dig into that just sentence for a second, because there seems to me like 3 things you're outlining there. One are you have your underlying data. How is it set up? What are the data sources? We know that all these people have all these companies have so many different legacy data systems, data lakes, pieces that they're trying to get information from. You have how it connects to everything, and then you have what you want to actually, the problem you want to solve. And I
Right.
think what you're telling me is that you can't actually start with one or the other. You have to kind of do them all simultaneously.
As you mentioned, the tech stack piece is getting more and more complicated, and a question that has come up a lot recently since Salesforce has gone to the market with their own CDP or customer data platform. A lot of clients are coming to us saying, do I need a CDP? If I don't today, when will I need one? Why do I need one? What am I losing if I don't do this? What am I gaining if I do this? It is a data platform. It's not very sexy in a way when you just look at the interface, but it's not just a data conversation. So to get back to your question about these kind of 3 layers, when we talk to our clients about CDP, yes, we need to understand the data. We need to understand what'll be coming in, what are the capabilities of the CDP to match what's coming in. But more so than that, what are you trying to get out of it? What does your customer experience need to look like? And let's back that into then, well, how is the CDP going to get you from point A to point B? And so it really is important to consider all of those things, especially if you're considering a major change to your tech stack.
Yeah, customer experience, I think that's an interesting phrase, right? And something I've latched onto is this idea of connected customer experiences. I think that's what we're ultimately, all of us in the greater digital marketing ethos, that's what we're trying to deliver. Um, but again, back to making a decision and a framework for thinking about and approaching things, that that connected customer experience, how does someone even start defining what they think that means for their set of customers?
Yeah. Well, as part of my strategic consulting practice at List Engage, we have put together a really great framework for working with customers and mapping that out exactly. So what we like to do is get all of the marketing stakeholders in a room, ideally a physical room, and we can do it virtually as well, but we like to get all of the stakeholders in the room and ask a bunch of questions, get things on a whiteboard, but we always start with, what is the customer life cycle? Because it's not the same for every industry or every use case. So, is it acquire, onboard, engage, retain, as an example? What is the life cycle? And then we talk about, well, within that life cycle, is it, should all of your customer segments be talked to the same way? Or are there big differences in how we talk to, for example, somebody who's brand new to your product or somebody who's a loyal product user for years? So we look at that, and then we look at for each of those segments and in each of those stages of the life cycle, what do you want your user to know about your brand? What should they feel? What are their moments where they're making a critical decision about whether to stay with your brand or whether to move to another one? So we literally map all of that out in a giant whiteboard session, and then go back with a critical eye and go, okay, this is where we need to make sure that we're proactively getting a message out to them. And then we talk through, these are the right channels. And then we get into a tactical conversation of, well, do we have the data to back that up? Do we have the platforms to back that up? And if not, what do we need to do to get there?
So the sneaky thing though about digital transformation and what you just said is that the questions start small, but they have big implications, and they're connected to big things within the org. How important is like executive alignment or getting all of the other stakeholders at least identified? Because I imagine that's got to be
Mhm.
a big portion of this, because how do you even make a decision as an org to choose this when it's going to change all of these other things potentially or impact them?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. That's a critical piece of it, is executive sponsorship and alignment. And when we're going through this process of getting all of the stakeholders together and having a discussion, there's not always alignment, right? Like if you're the director of customer experience for email, but you've also got the field service person in the room, you might see things very differently on how that customer journey should look. And I think that having a third party agency partner like List Engage come and be the mediators and the facilitators toward that conversation is so critical, because I don't have a political affiliation or stake in the ground either way. I'm just asking the questions to get to what is the best answer for the corporation. And it really helps to be the tiebreaker. And then if we can get the VP in the room as well, or get the VP's ear after, we can get those decisions made.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things too about the whole MarTech landscape is that it's also following this kind of evolution from like massive in-house, originally mainframe computer systems to software as a service. And the promise of software as a service is that, hey, the CIO doesn't have to make a decision anymore. Somebody can incrementally make a decision at a very low level,
Right.
and it's not going to totally overturn the organization. And while the software still functions that way, in the sense that anybody can make decisions on the software wherever they go, the usage and the thinking of the software is getting so complex that it's going back to almost the way it was, in the sense that you do have to identify stakeholders, you do have to get everyone back involved, and to make sure that you have clear alignment.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about it exactly that way, but I see what you mean, and I agree. I think that fundamentally there's a big change to how we staff a marketing department anymore. And even the concept of having a marketing department isn't necessarily how companies are starting to build out their teams. You know, there's a digital experience team now, or the customer experience team, and it takes a different skill set to execute successfully on that vision than it did a few years ago. So a conversation that we have frequently with our clients is not just the, hey, we got Salesforce, List Engage, help us stand it up, but it's like, List Engage, who do you think we should hire for the ongoing execution on this investment that we've made?
Well, so this is a thing that I think about a lot, which is the different skill sets, right? Because again, okay, marketing needs to do that. Let me just kick that over to marketing. Marketing wants to buy some software. Well, great. They should be able to just run and operate the software. And the fact is that, to me, when I look at what the role of an in-house marketing team is that I think it has to be more and more focused around the customer experience, because marketing can actually, I feel like it's a pie with 100 segments to it now, of what a marketer has got to be responsible for, and what do you think drives the most value for the business, and then who else should be helping with all the other parts.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talked earlier about how quickly things are changing. I think a piece of the pie that's getting bigger and bigger is around privacy and consent, and a corporate governance and strategy on privacy consent is not just a marketing decision. Now we've got a legal decision. Now we've got an HR decision, depending. So it is complex. It continues to get more complex, and what it means to be a marketer is so different today than what it was, and what it's going to be in the future will even be more complex.
Yeah, and then too, there's that whole link between kind of being a marketer and being I'll just say a technologist for now, right? Because okay, you've got Marketing Cloud as an example. The thing that blew my mind when I came to the ecosystem was the realization that to do Marketing Cloud meant that it's like 6 roles, and 5 roles, depending on how you want to slice and dice it. And most marketers, maybe they can do 1, maybe they can do 2, but like there's a whole, so there's just all of those capabilities in addition to the things that you mentioned, where they have to have the legal considerations, they need to think about how it's impacting strategy, and make those connections. Talk to just the tactical side of actually
Sure.
doing some of this stuff.
Yeah. What you said is so true. I think that a mistake that some companies make when they invest in Salesforce Marketing Cloud is they think, okay, I'll hire a Salesforce Marketing Cloud admin and that person will do everything. But if you don't know the ins and outs of it, which you're not appreciating, is that there's the strategic planning side, there's the hooking up the data, there's maintaining those data connections, adding new data connections, which is very, very technical. There is the
And they've
building out
changed.
of the content, and they change. There's the building out of the content. There is setting up marketing automations. There's reporting and analytics on the other side. So to have one strong marketing cloud admin who can do all those things is not going to be realistic for most companies. And even if you find a unicorn who can get by doing all of those things, guess what? They're probably not doing all of those things really well. What we found in working with a lot of our clients is, if we have an opportunity to come in and help them out with some staff augmentation, they might say, oh, my marketing cloud admin left. We need you, ListEngage, to help me out. And we come back with a proposal that says, okay, we want to give you these 4 people on a team. And they go, we don't need 4 people. We're good with this one person, or we were good. And we explain, the roles, that you and I just talked about, Bryan. And, when they get on board and start using ListEngage, what they find is everything is getting done better and faster because you've got specialists who are great at those individual skills versus one generalist who's wearing a million hats and maybe getting it done, but not getting it done the fastest or the best way.
So now, so let's flip back over to the other side then, right? So partners like ListEngage can help with this multi-role problem and helping with the software, getting it to work. So then what is the marketing team focused on? And I would kind of spice that question up a little bit by saying, if the marketing team isn't focused on the software, where should their head be? What should they be? What problems should they be focused on? And do you notice any trends there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that for the in-house team, and you'll always want a strong in-house team, even if you have a great partner like ListEngage helping you on the side. I think the biggest bang for your buck is to focus on data and content. Data is king, content is queen. We've known this for a long time. That part of marketing hasn't changed a lot in the last few years. Data from the perspective of, do I have all of the data that my company is collecting on my customers such that I can do smarter targeting and do better personalization? Oftentimes we see where marketers have it and they're just not using it because they don't know how, and we can help there. Or, sometimes it's like, oh, well, the company is capturing it, but IT owns this data and customer service owns that data, and I just own this data. Okay, well, let's have a conversation about CDP or potentially another way to get you all of that data connected. And then on the content side, I mean, content is so important, and it's more and more important as there's so much more marketing noise than there's ever been. All of these companies competing for your attention in your inbox, on your phone, on your TV. And so how do you cut through that noise and offer something of value? It's more important than it's ever been. It's not easy, but as marketers, if we let that slip and we just assume that, hey, I've got something to say and I'm just going to blast it to everyone, you're going to start to get subscriber fatigue, and you're not going to have a successful program.
Kind of that being a broad brushstroke, and related to that, when you go into a client and you go to talk to them and it's a new engagement, what are some of the biggest challenges that you're seeing?
Disconnected data sources
Mhm.
remains a common theme. I think marketers are really smart and they know what they should be doing, but all companies are trying to get as much work done as they possibly can with as few resources. So it's like, I know what
Mhm.
I need to do. I don't have the time in my day to do everything always the right way. So it's helping to prioritize what to do and when. So one example is every marketer should have a testing plan and testing strategy. We all know this, but I've worked with so many clients that have kind of started one, they haven't really stayed with it, or they are like, oh yeah, we're going to do that next year, because they're just struggling with knowing what to do and when, and prioritizing that work. And oftentimes those two problems that I just outlined go hand in hand. It's like, I know what I need to do, I know what the right things to do are, but my data's a mess. So how do I get there? And that's where, there's a lot of common pain points, but I love getting the opportunity to talk to clients, roll up my sleeves, and start to put a plan together for how do we prioritize, how do we take the baby steps and create the roadmap to get you on the path towards writing those pain points.
Yeah, it's kind of like a spiral. You have to just start it and just keep working through it and working through it. But the other thing, though, that I heard as you were describing that is that, okay, the data's a mess. I know what I need to be doing, but we haven't really talked yet about like KPIs and goals and those outcomes that we first mentioned in the very beginning of our conversation. Because one of the things that shocks me is that we'll have a conversation about a customer, and the number of customers that actually aren't sure what their outcome should be. I
Right.
mean, it's fuzzy. They kind of know what they want, but they don't know in a very precise, concise way. And how do you even get to an outcome when you're still figuring out that, what's even possible with the data? And then, are you even doing all the things you should be doing to get to some outcome, and are those pieces in place?
Yeah, I totally agree. Something that we hear from a lot of clients is, well, our email open rates are this, and we just want them better. Sure. Okay. But, I ask clients to look at it at more of a deeper level in terms of, well, what are you spending on your email program? And what is the ROI of an email? And let's get some hard numbers in place, right? As to if we can attribute some ROI to a campaign, if we're X today, where do we need to be to make this email program profitable? I mean, I think a shocking amount of marketers are not even really sure if it's profitable. It's like, well, we can't not have emails, so we have it, but is it really working for you?
Well, but how do they even solve the problem, right? Because I would think that some marketers may be almost a little afraid to try to solve that problem.
I agree. I agree. I mean, you have to get together all of your costs for what it takes to develop an email, from the licensing to the people to the, per deployment, depending on what your situation is. You have to decide as a company, how do you attribute revenue from a campaign? Do you have a good way to do it? If not, let's figure that piece out first, right? So it can be done. I think you're right. I think a lot of times there's a hesitancy because it feels like a lot of work to do it. And it feels like we might not like the answer if we go through the exercise. But it is important, because at the end of the day, the CMOs who are at the top, they need to understand that email or whatever channel it is, that it's actually making an impact to the bottom line.
And that kind of brings us to the next thing, which is that we don't often get to talk to CMOs because they're busy, right? Like all of us. But if one of them if a CMO is watching this podcast right now, what's your message out there to CMOs?
That's a great question. I'm sure they are. They heard I was going to be on and they've all tuned in. Yeah. What is my message to CMOs? I mean, I think get more involved in the decision-making process when you're making those critical decisions about your MarTech stack. And I'm sure many are, but I think that in some cases, the thought process might be, well, that's like a technical decision. I'm going to let the IT team handle it. I would like to see more CMOs really be involved in the details, because as we talked about earlier, there are a lot of different ways to build a MarTech stack, and something that you buy today because, okay, this will solve one problem or solve one use case and it's not that expensive and we're just going to do it now. What a lot of marketers and more critically CMOs aren't appreciating is that this Band-Aid that you put on today has big repercussions for the future. And so it's like every Band-Aid you throw on is another data source, which convolutes your data, which makes things messier, which not so much of a problem today, maybe, but 5 years from now, when you go to fix it and normalize your data, it is going to be a very expensive and time-consuming problem. So CMOs, thank you for your business. Thank you for all you do. But yes, love to get you more involved in those decisions up front.
And what do you say to the marketing manager who is somewhere on their journey and is contemplating, getting into transforming either their marketing by going into digital or looking to add channels, add email or add CRM? What do you say to those marketing managers?
Yeah, I say, let us help you. There's a lot out there in terms of potential solutions. Having been a marketer, I understand that there's a lot of pressure to get campaigns out by certain deadlines and get something done quickly and profitably. And so it might be tempting to pull the trigger on a quick solution that seems like it's within your budget. But I would say to those marketers, let a good partner like ListEngage help you evaluate the right solution for you. Digital transformation sounds like a big scary thing, but we can hold your hand through it and get you on the right path.
Julie, thank you so much for being on today's show. And thank you, audience, for watching Salesforce Sessions, where we talk about everything Salesforce. I'm your host, Bryan DeFroda. Thank you very much. Julie Marques, Director of Strategic Consulting at ListEngage. Thank you for being with us, Julie.
Thanks, Bryan.